From one multiverse to another, GameMasters here, and I'm not sure where this is going to take us, but there is a new role-playing game about to hit the market. It appears that Marvel is dipping its toe into the multiverse of role-playing. Not in the form of a new video game, but in the form of a narrative storytelling adventure akin to Dungeons & Dragons. Coined as a D616 system, fans of the comic will understand that reference, and I'll get to that in a moment. We will see both a digital as well as a physical drop of this take place on April 20th, and I've got a link in the description below as to where you can get a copy. And it's going to run right at around 120 pages, and it's going to set you back about $10. I've reached out to get a review copy, but, listen, I'm just a little guy in a small pond, and it's doubtful that Marvel will see me on their radar. But just the same, I want to jump in and check out what we've got. It's been explained that the games you come up with won't mess with canon, as each table that sits down to play is, in essence, they're creating their own universe within the multiverse, and that's pretty clever. You can have your own Tony Stark Iron Man, or your own Groot, your own Captain America, Spiderman, even Wolverine if you want, and they can do whatever you choose. Of course, you can also create your own hero with its own abilities and potential superpowers. This book is going to contain character sheets, maps, of course the rules, and quite a bit more. I mentioned that this will use what they call the D616 system, and of course Dungeons & Dragons uses the D20 system. Well, the D616 system uses only three six-sided die. As best I understand it, one of the die is a Marvel die. If you roll a 1 on it, something really cool is going to happen. If you roll a 6 on the other 2 dice, that's considered to be the ultimate fantastic roll. To use D&D terms, when Tony Stark grabs the Infinity Stone from Thanos at the end of Endgame and then snaps, that would be the Dungeons & Dragons equivalent of rolling a natural 20. Here in the Marvel role-playing game, Tony would have rolled a 6, a 1, and a 6. And I use the thumbs up system. This basically means that if you're enjoying this video, give me a thumbs up. It helps to spread my videos out to more eyes, and I appreciate that. The letters in Marvel also describe what the ability scores are, and there are 6 in all: might, agility, resilience, vigilance, ego, and logic. And I'm told that the scores for average folks, the non-superheroes, are going to range from around -4 to +4, with superpowered characters seeing those scores going up much higher. Some of the information provided is a little vague, that's to be expected, but we are given Spider-Man as an example character. And I'll show you him in just a moment, with what appears to be a progressive superpower chart. And you can see that here, that he can move from jump 1, rank 5 to jump 2, and it looks like he would need to get to jump rank 1 raised up to rank 10 to progress up to jump 2. Other spider powers are spider dodge, spider sense, webcasting, which webcasting looks like it has its own ranks as well. And there is evidently something too in the game referred to as archetypes. Specifically mentioned is a striker and a blaster. Details don't exist on these yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb and wonder out loud if these are like the D&D equivalent of classes, like your ranger or your warrior. Marvel also states that there's a beginner adventure in the Playtest Rulebook called Enter Hydra, in which the players learn of a hostage situation at the Howard and Maria Stark Center for Galactic History on the Empire State University campus in Manhattan. And from that alone, we can deduce that the contents within this book will have more of a connection to the comic book version of the Marvel multiverse rather than from the movies. It's just an observation there. We mentioned a moment ago about Spider-Man's character sheet. And while we don't have a lot of context to compare it to, I mean, we saw earlier that normal folks have stats that range from -4 to +4. Things like health, focus, and what the modifiers will mean are a little lost to me at the moment. I'm still looking at this from a D&D perspective, so it's going to take a little rewiring of my brain to figure out what the meaning behind some of these numbers are. But that said, once we have the book itself in hand and have been able to examine the rules, this should be bit more clear. In addition to abilities, we are also provided a brief biography, Spider-Man's real name, spoiler there if you don't already know it, a short history, his personality, backstory, and traits, and a little blurb here where Spider-Man has learned more about his deep connection to the spider totem. And this is what makes me suspect that we'll have a closer tie to the comics. Well, that's going to tie into the D616 system, and that we also know that the Earth Marvel movies take place in Earth 1999-99. I think I got that right. I am GameMasters. Sorry, had to. I'm actually really curious to see how accepted this new role-playing game is going to be. There's zero doubt that there are Marvel fans out there that are going to just eat this up. And while I admit it's a pretty cool concept, I'm just curious to see how well the idea has been executed, given that we had a Marvel Universe RPG that was released back in the early 2000s, and of course Marvel Superhero from TSR way back in the 1980s. Those are some that either you remember or have never heard of. And I just wonder if it's going to be the case here. But what is interesting is that this is called a playtest rulebook. Let the masses do the playtesting and provide feedback, which is exactly how this is being advertised on Amazon. Again, the link is in the description below. Also touting that players that grab the playtest rulebook will have an opportunity to provide official feedback and help shape the game for its full release. And that alone is what may ultimately make this role-playing game a very big success. While I watch my mailbox eagerly for a review copy, I may just go ahead and buy one. It's only $10, and I'll go ahead and create a playlist which you can watch here that's going to cover everything we discover about this new Marvel RPG. What do you think? This is pretty exciting news. What new and unique superhero are you going to create? Let me know in the comments below, and until next our paths cross, may you roll a 616.